Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing my top 5 schematics I recommend for new players and why. So the first design we have is a 2x tank fabricator by the player Tutter. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that name, so if I'm wrong about that, someone let me know. But this is probably the best schematic in its class. It has a built-in plasma board, which is one less input to put in, built-in electro, and built-in silicon arc. This schematic is very powerful because it has everything built in, so all you have to wire up is water, silicon, sand, and graphite, and also power if you count power as an input. And here's what the inputs look like. Next up, we have a bigger variant of this factory, also by the user Tutter, and this one is different because it goes on beryllium rather than tungsten. Once again, here's what the inputs look like. Pretty simple. Okay, next up we have the 5x Claroi that is definitely very heavily used by many players. And this particular design, there's several out there on the market, but this particular design is by Sire. It's originally based off of, again, a Tutter design, but Sire is able to optimize it further. Here's what the inputs look like. So this has a built-in nitrogen, and something to keep in mind is if you do the Claroi version, Clarois use much more graphite, require much more graphite to build than Locuses, so keep that in mind. And next up, we have a T4 factory, also by Tutter once again. Here's what the inputs look like. And this one has a built-in pyro, which actually offsets the power usage of this thing, and actually provides a bit of power itself as well. The only thing to note here is that having a duct right here doesn't work. You need a bridge feeding right here into this bridge right here. So that's the only slightly tricky thing about this schematic. Next up, I have a chemical combustion chamber schematic that a lot of people use. The reason why I wanted to show this is just because a lot of new players struggle with power early game. They either just spam vents or take way too long setting up a really janky version of this. So this is super simple. You just copy and paste it, and you just put it down like that, add water, and you need a bit of power to get kick-started, and then it just provides you with a lot of power, as you can see. So the question now you should be asking is, what is the right time to use these schematics? The 2x is very easy to place, so you'll find even experienced players sometimes just spamming these because they can just place it down and not think about it. However, the 3x outproduces the 2x, so if it takes you about the same time it takes to set up the 3 instead of the 2, you should probably opt for the 3. Something else to note is that the inputs for these are very different. This requires tungsten, which is much harder to get than just beryllium in general, and also this requires hydrogen when this just requires water. Water is very easy to get. This requires hydrogen, which requires an additional setup. If you have these power plants scattered throughout, this actually produces surplus hydrogen, and it's actually enough to feed into here. Next up, we have the 5x Claroi. In this schematic, you'll find a lot of highly skilled players using. In my top 10 tips for units video, I explained why Clarois are great late game. So you may often find your opponent or experienced players having 1 or even 2 of these placed down at some point in a game that lasts longer. It is definitely more oxide heavy and just very resource heavy compared to the 2x and the 3x, so you want to keep that in mind. And of course we have the Vanquish factory, which is very good paired up with the Claroi factory. As I explained in my units video, the Vanquish and Clarois have very good synergy, so this Vanquishes are terrible by themselves, but when they're supported, they are excellent units. And the last thing I want to share is you just need to have bore schems. These are some very basic ones. My bore schematic library is a lot bigger than that, and I want to continue to expand it. But if you're still hand placing bores, it takes significantly much more time to hand place everything than it does to just place the schematic. And remember that you're wasting this time every single time that you place a borer. But yeah, that's about it for me. I just picked these schematics just because they're fairly common and they're very user friendly for new players. The only tricky thing about this schematic is that beryllium goes into this router here, and water goes into here. Everything else is pretty easy with this one. This one you just have to remember it needs hydrogen and it goes on beryllium. This one pretty self-explanatory: beryllium, graphite sand. And you just have to provide enough hydrogen for this thing, so you have to do some calculations for this one. This one's pretty easy, and you can just spam these everywhere. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.